Hi everyone, mabuhay! We are the Group 8 and today we will be presenting to you the World Heritage Sites in North and West Asia.
Historic Center of Macau, China, comprising over 20 monuments and urban squares interwoven in the heart of the city, the historic district is collectively known as the Historic Center of Macau and inscribed on the World Heritage List in 2005. Macau, a lucrative port strategic importance in the development of international trade, was under Portuguese administration from the 16th century until 1999, when it came under Chinese sovereignty, with its historic street, residential, religious, and public Portuguese and Chinese buildings. The Historic Center of Macau provides a unique testimony to the meetings of aesthetic, cultural, architectural, and technological influences from the East and West. The site also contains a fortress and a lighthouse, the oldest in China. It bears witness to one of the earliest and longest-lasting encounters between China and West, based on the vibrancy of international trade. Ancient city of Pingyao, China. Pingyao is an exceptionally well-preserved example of traditional Han Chinese city founded in 14th century. Its urban fabric shows the evolution of architectural styles and town planning in Imperial China over 5 centuries. Of special interest are the imposing buildings associated with banking, for which Pingyao was the major center for the whole China in the 19th and early 20th century. The ancient city of Pingyao is an outstanding example of Han cities in the Ming and Qing dynasties from the 14th to 20th century. It retains all the Han city features, provides a complete picture of cultural, social, economic, and religious development in Chinese history, and it is the great value for studying the social form, economic structure, military defense, religious belief, traditional thinking, traditional ethics, and dwelling form. The historic monuments of Dengfeng in the center of heaven and earth in China. The natural attribute of the center of heaven and earth was seen to be in the Mount of Songshan, and worship of Mount Songshan was used by the emperors as a way of reinforcing their power. Mount Songshan is considered to be the central sacred of mountain in China. At the foot of this 1,500-meter high mountain, close to the city of Dengfeng in Henan province and spread over 40 square kilometer circle, stand 8 clusters of buildings and sites, including the 3 Han Key gates, remains of the oldest religious edifices in China, temples, the Sunggong Sunjial platform, and the Dengfeng Observatory. Constructed over the course of 9 dynasties, these buildings are reflections of different ways of perceiving the center of heaven and earth and the power of the mountain as the center for religious devotion. The historical monuments of Dengfeng include some of the best examples of ancient Chinese buildings devoted to ritual, science, technological, and education. The Imperial Palace of the Ming and Qing dynasties in Beijing and Shenyang. The Imperial Palace of Ming and Qing dynasties in Beijing, known as the Forbidden City, was constructed between 1406 and 1420 by the Ming Emperor Zydie and witnessed the enthronement of 14 Ming and 10 Qing emperors over the following 505 years. Seat of supreme power over 5 centuries, 1416 to 1911. The Forbidden City in Beijing, with its landscape, gardens, and many buildings, whose nearly 10,000 rooms contain furniture and works of art, constitute a priceless testimony to the Chinese civilization during the Ming and Qing dynasties. The Imperial Palace of the Qing dynasties in Shenyang consists of 114 buildings constructed between 1625 to 1626 and 1783. It contains an important library and testifies the foundation of the last dynasty that ruled China. Imperial tombs of Ming and Qing dynasties. It represents the addition of the 3 imperial tombs of the Qing dynasty in Liaoning to the Ming tombs inscribed in 2000 and 2003. The 3 imperial tombs of the Qing dynasty in Liaoning province include the Youling tomb, the Fuling tomb, and the Shaoling tomb, all built in 17th century. Constructed for the founding emperors of the Qing dynasty and their ancestors, the tombs follow the precepts of traditional Chinese geomancy and feng shui theory. They feature rich decoration and stone statues and carvings and tiles with the dragon motifs, illustrating the development of funerary architecture of the Qing dynasty. The three tombs complexes and their numerous edifices combine the tradition inherited from the previous dynasties and new features of Manchu civilization.
The Great Wall is reputed as one of the 7 construction wonders in the world, not only for its long history but its massive construction size and its unique architectural style as well. In 220 BC, under Qin Shi Huang, sections of earlier fortifications were joined together to form a united defense system against invasions from the north. Construction continued up to the Ming Dynasty between 1368 to 1644, when the Great Wall became the world's largest military structure. Its historic and strategic importance is matched only by its architectural significance. Our next World Heritage Site is the Historic Monuments of Ancient Kyoto. Built in AD 794 on the model of the capitals of ancient China, Kyoto was the imperial capital of Japan from its foundation until the middle of the 19th century. As the center of Japanese culture for more than 1,000 years, Kyoto illustrates the development of Japanese wooden architecture, particularly religious architecture, and the art of Japanese gardens, which has influenced landscape gardening the world over. Our next World Heritage Site is found in Japan, Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park, situated in Genbaku Dome, Japan. It is dedicated to the legacy of Hiroshima as the first city in the world to suffer a nuclear attack and to the memories of the bomb's direct and indirect victims. Hiroshima Peace Memorial was the only structure left standing in the area where the first atomic bomb exploded on August 6, 1945. Through the efforts of many people, including those of the city of Hiroshima, it has been preserved in the same state as immediately after the bombing. Not only is it a stark and powerful symbol of the most destructive force ever created by humankind, it also expresses the hope for world peace and the ultimate elimination of all nuclear weapons. Historic monuments and sites in Kaesong, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It is situated in Kaesong City in the south of the country. Did you know that the site consists of 12 separate components which together testify to the history and culture of the Koryo dynasty from the 10th to 14th centuries? The geomantic layout of its former capital city of Kaesong, its palaces, institutions, and tomb complex, defensive walls, and gates embodied its political, cultural, philosophical, and spiritual values of a crucial era in the region's history. The monuments inscribed also include an astronomical and meteorological observatory, 2 schools including one dedicated to educating national officials, and commemorative steels. The site testifies to the transition from Buddhism to Neo-Confucianism in East Asia and to the assimilation of the cultural, spiritual, and political values of the states that existed prior to Korea's unification under the Koryo dynasty. The integration of Buddhist, Confucian, Taoist, and Geomantic concepts is manifest in the planning of the site and the architecture of its monument. Let us proceed to the next World Heritage in North and West Asia. The Grand Canal in China is a vast waterway system in the northeastern and central eastern plains of China, running from Beijing in the north to Zhejiang province in the south. Constructed in sections from the 5th century BC onwards, It was conceived as a unified means of communication for the empire for the first time in the 7th century AD under Sui dynasty. This led to a series of gigantic construction sites, creating the world's largest and most extensive civil engineering project prior to the Industrial Revolution. It formed the backbone of the empire's inland communication system, transporting grain and strategic raw materials, and supplying rice to feed the population. By the 13th century, it consisted of more than 2,000 kilometers of artificial waterways linking 5 of the China's main river basins. It has played an important role in ensuring the country's economic prosperity and stability and is still in use today as a major means of communication.
Shrines and Temples of Nikko. The Shrines and Temples of Nikko forms a single complex composed of 103 religious buildings within 2 Shinto shrines, the Toshogo and the Futeresen Jinja, and 1 Buddhist temple, the Renji, located in an outstanding natural setting. The inscribed property is located in Tochigi Prefecture in the northern part of the Japan's Kanto region. The religious buildings, many of which were constructed in the 17th century, are arranged on the mountain slopes so as to create different visual effects. They are also closely associated with the prominent chapters of the Japanese history, especially those relating to the symbolic figure of the great shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu. Today, they testify to a centuries-old tradition of conservation and restoration, as well as the preservation of religious practices linked to a site considered to be sacred. Royal Tombs of the Joseon Dynasty, Republic of Korea. The royal tombs of the Joseon Dynasty form a collection of 40 tombs scattered over 18 locations. Built over 5 centuries, from 1408 to 1966, the tombs honored the memory of ancestors, showed respect for their achievements, asserted royal authority, protected ancestral spirits from evil, and provided protection from vandalism. The Joseon tombs completes the 5,000-year history of royal tombs architecture in the Korean peninsula. The natural surroundings of the royal tombs of the Joseon dynasty, shaped by the principles of Pungsu, create a delicate setting for the living tradition of ancestral worship and its associated rites. Great Burkhan Khaldun Mountain and the surrounding sacred landscape in Mongolia. The site is situated in the northeast of the country in the central part of the Kinti mountain chain, where the vast Central Asian steppe meets the coniferous forest of the Siberian taiga. Associated with the worship of sacred mountains, rivers and ubus, where ceremonies have been shaped by a fusion of ancient shamanic and Buddhist practices. Believed to be the place of Genghis Khan's birth and burial, it testifies to his efforts to establish mountain worship as an important part of the unification of the Mongol people, and the center of events that profoundly changed Asia and Europe between the 12th and the 14th centuries and have direct links with Genghis Khan and his formal recognition of mountain worship. Minaret and archaeological remains of Jam in Afghanistan. The 65-meter tall minaret of Jam is a graceful, soaring structure dating back to the 12th century. Covered in elaborate brickwork with a blue tile inscription at the top, it is noteworthy for the quality of its architecture and decoration, which represents the culmination of an architectural and artistic tradition in this region. Its impact is heightened by its dramatic setting, a deep river valley between towering mountains in the heart of the Gur province. Mogao Caves in China. Situated at a strategic point along the Silk Route, at the crossroads of trade as well as religious, cultural, and intellectual influences, the 492 cells and cave sanctuaries in Mogao are famous for their statues and wall paintings spanning 1,000 years of Buddhist art. The discovery of the library cave at the Mogao Caves in 1990, together with the tens of thousands of manuscripts and relics it contained, has been acclaimed as the world's greatest discovery of the ancient Oriental culture. This significant heritage provides invaluable reference for studying the complex history of ancient China and Central Asia.
Mount Wutai, China. The cultural landscape is home to 41 monasteries and includes the East Main Hall of Fugon Temple, the highest surviving timber building of Tang Dynasty. With life-size clay sculptures, it also featured the Ming Dynasty Sushiang Temple, and a huge complex of 500 statues representing Buddhist stories woven into three-dimensional pictures of mountains and water. Overall, the buildings on the site catalog the way in which Buddhist architecture developed and influenced palace building in China for over a millennium. Mount Wutai is the highest in northern China and is remarkable for its morphology of precipitous slopes with 5 open treeless peaks. Temples have been built on this site from the 1st century to the early 20th century. Itsukushima Shinto Shrine, Japan. The buildings of Itsukushima Jinja are in the general tradition of Japanese Shinto architecture in which a mountain or natural object become the focus of religious belief to be worshipped from a shrine. Generally constructed at the foot of the mountain, the harmoniously arranged shrine buildings in the property are located on the sea and the scenery with a trinity composed of man-made architecture in the center the sea. The island of Itsukushima in the Seto Island Sea has been holy place of Shintoism since the earliest times. The first shrine building here were probably erected in the 6th century. The time shrine dates from the 12th century, and the harmoniously arranged reveal great artistic and technical skill. The shrine plays on the contrast in the color and form between the mountains and sea, and illustrates the Japanese concept of scenic beauty, which combines nature and human creativity. Orkhon Valley Cultural Landscape, Mongolia. The Orkhon Valley Cultural Landscape, or OVCL, lies in the central part of Mongolia, in 360 kilometers southwest Ulaanbaatar. Site covers 121,967 hectares of grassland along the historic Orkhon River and includes a buffer zone of 61,044 hectares. Archaeological rich Orkhon River basin was home of successive nomadic culture which evolved from prehistoric origin in harmony with the natural landscape of the steppes and resulted in economic, social, and cultural polities unique to the region. Namhansanseong Republic of Korea is a historic mountain fortress city in 25 kilometers southeast of Seoul, South Korea. It sits approximately 400 meters above sea level, and it's aligned with the ridge of the mountain for a maximum defensibility. It was designed as an emergency capital for the Joseon dynasty in 1392 to 1910. Built and defended by the Buddhist monk soldier, it could accommodate 4,000 people and fulfill important administrative and military functions. Its earliest remains date from 7th century. It was rebuilt several times in the early 17th century in anticipation of an attack from the Sino-Manchu Qing dynasty. Did you know that Namhansanseong is an outstanding example of fortified city? Designed in the 7th century as emergency capital for the Joseon dynasty, it was built and then defended by Buddhist soldier monks who respected pre-existing tradition already in place.